This is on situational conflicts with kids and youth and how to deal with it based on experiences from experts. And I hope it will be helpful for whoever needs it or wants to understand more about it. So, how do you deal with conflict when they appear, like in your work or with your kids, teenagers, or minors? And what kind of conflicts is it that you are dealing with? That's what we're going to have a look into in this presentation. That's from my notes from the time I've been teaching at the seminary, pedagogy students, and picked up from along the way during my study time. There are three types of behavior when you come to kids and teenagers. The first one is the effect behavior. The second one is the border seeking behavior, and the third one is crisis behavior. The first one, the effect behavior, is someone who wants to do something to get an effect out of it. They want to get attention, they want to be seen, they want maybe to be thrown out of class, whatever it is of effect they want to get. The second one is the border seeking effect, and immature one in many ways. That's when kids and teenagers are exploring how far they can go with something without having consequences, or maybe without really understanding the consequences. The third one is the crisis behavior that can create conflicts, and that is, of course, more psychological focused than the others. The first one, the effect behavior, can be dealt with by using the involvement and consequence ladder. It's a two-step ladder, if you can say so, two-part ladder, where you involve yourself, and I will talk more about it a little bit later. And then there are the consequences of it, where you also involve yourself, but show what consequences can come out of it and how to do it. It sounds pretty forward, but there are some steps that's very important to highlight when we come to that. The border seeking, what can you say, behavior is mostly because of frustrations, and you have to understand that frustration level the kid is under, and it is impulsive. So you have also to learn how or understand how to deal with impulsive behavior, and so we will come back to that as well. That can be the contradictory intervention, for instance, and I will explain a bit later. And then there is the crisis behavior, where usually the kid or the teenager will react with fight or flight, and it needs the relationship pedagogy. It's about building a good relation and understanding the psyche and the situation that this kid is under. And let's go to the first one, the effect behavior. It's the one where you can use that two-step ladder. You can also use it with border seeking, depends on the situation. But for effect, it has been used and seen very useful. First of all, you involve yourself in the situation from your perspective as an authority, a parent, a teacher, a social worker, whatever you have of role, and you are observant in the situation. You do not jump to judgment immediately and punishment, but you go in that situation wanting to understand. You really want to see why this kid is making that behavior, and so you can ask open questions. Why did you do that? Is there something wrong? Is this important right now? Do you really want to continue this? And so on. Can I ask you what you want to say, or why are you doing this? Try to understand the person. And when you start to do that, you seek information. You want to understand more, and you want to get answers. And so maybe you will get a cheeky answer like, yeah, and so what? I don't care, or I don't want to answer you, or something like that. Then you start going after information from the person or persons around him or her. And your professional reaction to that is very important, because you have to stay calm, understanding, at the same time show that you are not really accepting what has been going on, because that behavior has been disturbing. And you can use that with the border seeking behavior as well. It can be a classic situation where somebody is making noise or a special voice in the middle of something, or maybe taking the attention away from others while you need their attention or they need to be focused. And so this person does something and everybody starts to laugh and the attention is gone somewhere else. A little bit later, it repeats itself and the others seems to be glad and happy about it or trying to stop it, being annoyed, but not really knowing what to do. It also depends on where you are and how much you can give time to this. But at any time, you need to pay attention to ask the open questions, get information, and then show that you are not satisfied with this. This is not the right moment. All right, I understand that, but wait until this and that. Could this not wait for later? You can see the others are occupied, or we are occupied, and so on. And so you show your professional reaction to this by like setting up a small border already and a kind of negative attitude that can be shown without being negative towards the person himself. And that's a delicate and difficult balance you need to do sometimes. Then on the second step of the ladder, if this person does not really act accordingly to what your frustrations are telling him to, or your advice, you will explain that there are consequences. You do not go on and shouting this person down or maybe showering this person with negative critique, but you stay calm and you say, listen, there is consequences to this. This is not going to pass, and this can lead to this and that, whatever you can think of consequences that can be passed out. And that's a mistake some will do, is that they will talk about consequences they cannot carry out. They say, like, if they say, you will be thrown out of school, or you're not gonna spend the night here with us at the camp, we're gonna send you home, and something like that, which they know they cannot really act on. That's a very big mistake, because maybe the kid is gonna test you, and maybe that kid already knows that when in this camp it's not possible to go home, or from this school it's not so easy to be kicked out, and so on. And so don't use threats of consequences that cannot be carried out. Only keep to those will have that reality behind it. And so if that kid or person keeps going on seeking the border or seeking attention, well, then you have to carry out that consequence that you talked about. Otherwise, you will lose part or a lot or all your authority in that situation, and maybe for the next time and next time again. And that's what happens to many teachers and personnel and sometimes parents today. They try to act on the consequences and they fail. And when they fail, well, the kids have already taken over and maybe has inspired others to rise against those failed authorities. I mean it in a way that rise against, well, they are not suppressed, but to okay, share the noise, participate in the border seeking attention. Why not? Let's turn it into a circus. Who cares anyway? So you can like become very weak in that situation if you do not act on your authority and show the consequences as they should be, and take care not to overreact. That can also be a trouble, because if you are afraid of losing the control with the situation and you are threatening with consequences and then you act on them, but you act over jealous and maybe too excited, that means you can also bring things out of balance in another way, because the others would say, hey, it was just a balloon, he blew up in the class, no need for all this drama of sending him home for a week and make him write 3 reports and so on. Maybe that will also put you in a negative light in the eyes of both this kid and the others, and maybe the parents and maybe the school, because you're overreacting uh, according to some things that happened. Well, okay, it happened, but let's not overreact. And that comes because the person in charge will be afraid of losing his or her authority. And always remember here that when you are in this situation with the kid and this is a golden rule everyone should know about also at home. Do not frustrate the kid so much that it feels it has lost your empathy. It's very important. You want to show the consequences and you want to distance yourself from the situation by showing that I do not like this and this will have consequences and I'm not really happy. But do not do it in such a way that the kid, especially if they're minors, they will be maybe mistaking what you are doing with you do not like them anymore. You do not love them. You do not want them there. So do not go there where it can be interpreted as a lack of empathy or maybe a lack of connection from now on. So you do not want to cut that rope to the kid. You want to adjust the behavior. And so it's very important to do so. And sometimes you have to adjust also the level of both your attention and what can you see consequences and act on it in a very balanced way. That's very important. When you are dealing with professional consequence, you have to focus on the case. Remember that, not focus on the person. You do not want to go and just show that this person is bad, wrong, stupid, not good enough. This is not your goal. You want to keep sticking to the case, even though that person maybe tries to turn it around. This can come from the boulder seeking behavior where the kid is trying to frustrate you all the way so you lose your temper or your mind or overreact and maybe says something stupid or do something stupid and you start like hating that person and just want to get rid of him or her, and this becomes very personal, and this is not a good way to go for a professional at all. So always keep the focus on the case. Whatever happens, say, listen, what I'm dealing with here is that the balloon you blew up in the class, and I don't want to have this repeated again. And so give also the kid the chance to take control, inner control. You need to give the kid a chance, and you need to be patient and sometimes just say, listen, okay, you need to be in control of this, and I will give you the chance for doing so in the next act or what we are going through. And so always also important to remember the kid has an inner control mechanism. It will imitate and it will like what can you say, it will take in the orders and try to adjust himself or herself to that, because the kid know you are an authority and they know there is a stronger and bigger authority behind you, and they do not really want the consequences. This is important to remember. Many of the kids who make trouble, they do not really want the consequences. They will just want to test borders or maybe just have fun or maybe think, well, it's not important. And so this can happen at home, happen on a trip, in a camp, at a school, kindergarten. Many, many situations like this appear almost every day. And we have to remember that the kid is still learning to take inner control. So when they do something, depending on their age, of course, because we know that the minor kids have less inner control than those who have started becoming teenagers, where they have already been through an intense socialization process where they have been learning and learning and learning to take control, like they're learning to write and read. And so you have also to measure this in your work, that how much should I give the kid a chance to take inner control. And so when you work, focus on the case, give the kid inner control, and be always aware that the consequence does not necessarily need to be that you also follow suit by being negative. You can maybe say to that kid, well, the consequence of this charade you just made in the class is that you're gonna do this and that, but that's how it is. Don't show that you dislike the kid or don't want him anymore, or you're so frustrated and angry with that kid that nothing can build a bridge between you anymore. I know some cases comes to that because they keep on going, and the professional gets fed up with it. That's because it's been dealt with in a wrong manner from the beginning on. But if you already have been taking action when the things happens, and you do not lose your authority, and you act on the consequences in a very not dramatic but a fair way. Well, you will get hold on the situation, and your frustrations won't hold you up in that corner where you will react in a very bad way, maybe to the person himself, or with a very bad and not so relaxed consequence. So this was like a bit to the first two ones, where you can use that way of dealing with it, the effect and border seeking. And just to remind, the effect behavior is when you want an effect. It's like, well, I like that girl. I want to show her I'm brave, and though so I drive faster on the bicycle in the schoolyard because I want to show I'm cool. And you get stopped and you want to get the effect out of it, and maybe you get it, but it can have consequences for you. You're ready to take it, or maybe you don't want to. It can be that balloon blown up in the class, and so everybody can laugh and have a moment of fun, and maybe someone also to get the attention to or from. And so the other one is the border seeking behavior. It means that this person who blew up the balloon is trying to see, well, how far can I drive this teacher to the edge? How long can I go with this before I feel the consequence becoming too hot to take? And so I will stop, or like retire from that battle, or maybe withdraw from it. And so you have always to understand that this is it can be one of the two goals. The third one is the crisis behavior. And the crisis behavior is important to read and understand because it is based on something inside the kid, something that has to do with the level of aggression or the level of submission that is in this kid's life. And there can be some triggers to this kind of crisis. The crisis can be that the kid will shuts down, don't want to act or interact with anyone, seems gone all the way into him or herself, and you cannot reach in for a long time, or maybe on purpose, just ignoring you and giving you that frustration that we all can get by being ignored by someone we want to reach into. And that's how they show us, I'm not ready for you, I don't want to talk to you, I'm in a crisis, and I don't want to show it, I don't want it to come to the surface. Mostly it's the introverts who does that. The extroverts, those with the feelings outside their clothes, as one says, well, they will act outwardly most of the time, and they will go being aggressive when they are in crisis, and they will have a very low border of frustration. So whatever somebody says, or can be a small blink or a small word from you, can make them react, throwing something, getting angry, going out of the class, leaving the camp, getting up and fighting with someone, answering you with some harsh words. The other type, the first type, the introvert, if you put him or her in that situation, they will close in, they will close the doors, they will just shut you and the others out, maybe go and sit somewhere where they're alone. They will not confront the situation, but they will run away from it. And there are things that has been looked into that can trigger that kind of behavior when you already know the kid is frustrated, has done something not so good, has maybe lost focus on during class, or didn't do the homework, or didn't help with the dishes after eating in the camp, behaving not so well during the trip, whatever it can be. When this kid or teenager is doing that, there are some things that could trigger a kind of not so lucky response from these kids. It can be, as we said, aggressive or shutting down. And if you want to avoid that, they basically say you should avoid speaking for a long time about morals and what to do and the other people who are better, and how this guy should remember the good sides of himself and society and all, because that's not what they need to hear. They maybe need to hear it in a very, very small portion, but that's not the main focus. For them, it's the inner crisis that is in focus, and not to understand that they are not behaving well. They know that. Most of the kids are aware, well, my behavior is antisocial right now, or maybe not the right one for how I should behave in my age. and they know that. But because the crisis is there, their behavior is affected by the crisis. Can be a crisis at home, something that happened between the parents they have dragged with them to the school or to the camp. It can be a crisis of losing somebody they love, or maybe a no from in a love story. It can be many things. And so they drag it with them. And in that age, it can be very difficult to deal with because they haven't really learned how to administer and adapt and use the feelings they have in the correct situations. So when you go on and keep giving a speech, they will be more and more frustrated. Maybe they will just shut the ears down and not really listen to you. And you go on babbling and babbling about the right way to do things and the responsibility, taking responsibility with the others, how important it is, and how life will be if you do not do that, blah, blah, blah. And you go on and you go on, and you are not really touching on the issue. That is the crisis that this kid is having, and not really the need of a moral talk. The other thing is to like use labeling. Oh yeah, you again. That's typically how you do it every time. Or what's going on with you? We thought you got over this, and so on, like that, where you label that kid as okay. We know you and we know what you do, because the kid will listen to it and know, okay, I'm already labeled. I am not good enough, and so I will just continue. Or what the heck? I will make it even worse, maybe. Or I'm just I don't care, and I don't want to take responsibility for things anymore. And so don't try also to connect what's happening with the future, like some would do, going around and saying, like in that situation in the camp, or the balloon guy, or whatever happens to that kid who has a crisis, and you say, well, your future will be bleak. Imagine you're doing this in the workplace and it doesn't look good to me, and you will fail, and so and so and so. Why put all this negative attention on the case just to warn him or her from that behavior? You have to open the key lock to why this behavior is happening and why they have lost the inner control. What went wrong? What case are they in, and what kind of reaction are we seeing from them, and because of what? So another thing one could go wrong with is when you comment personally on the person himself, and you can maybe tell him or her, yeah, yeah, that doesn't makes it easier that you are wearing that kind of clothes, or do you think your hairstyle will save you from the consequence of what you've done, or what is it you think you're doing just because you're wearing some new beautiful shoes? And don't comment like that, because that's negative, and it's like you are degrading that person for how he or she looks, or what kind of wear they have in them, on their feet. And so don't not accumulate criticism. Criticism keeps the keeps the contact very weak, keeps the kid in a deep crisis situation, and you will not touch on what's needed to do. And that can sometimes evolve very quickly if you do not take care. If you have a kid that you know is aggressive, and you go pushing him in the corner during a meeting, where you keep pushing him and pushing him, you will get that reaction. I've seen that several times, where we've had kids that keeps on pushing for the borders, or they are just in crisis and do not want to follow class. And so time after time, they combine both the effect behavior, crisis, what can you say, the border seeking behavior, and crisis. I remember especially one kid who did that for some time back in the days, and I remember that he was sent up to the schoolmaster. And in that meeting, the schoolmaster kept pushing and pushing, because it had been like meeting number 7 or 10 in that period. And the parents were there as well. And well, didn't go well, neither from the parents nor from the schoolmaster. And I guess we found out the problem was at home and with the development of that kid. He was a beautiful, strong, and very self esteemed kid who had his position both in class and within the girls and outside in society, and parents were well functioning and working and all that. So it wasn't like a poor abandoned kid. But he had a crisis, and I think they dealt very, very wrongly with it. And so, in the end, he reacted in the schoolmaster's office because he was pushed and pushed and pushed, and suddenly he exploded, became very violent and threatening, and they had to drag him out and something like that. And he knows, and later he also regretted that because it wasn't the schoolmaster he was after, neither the situation. But he just felt nobody understood his crisis, and they would just keep pushing him and pushing him in what, in his eyes, seemed to be a stupid way. There were no open questions, there were no talk, there were no space to be himself or maybe to do something else. Well, this is how it is. The consequences can be there and they can be hard, but that doesn't help. And we learned that he also did that at home when he came home to his parents. Well, if he had behaved in school, because the consequences would be very harsh, he could blow it all up in the house or in the club. There has also been some incidents with his aggression in the club in the evening, and so it is a past that's not going to lead anywhere, and it's not easy to deal with, especially the outgoing ones. But I have also dealt with those who are inward, and many of us have dealt with these types, and they are also just as difficult. There are some very, very strange ways you can make them open up, maybe, but basically they can, if you can see a reaction from that outgoing guy, well, good luck making the other one blink. And so they go totally cold and freezing on you. Just sit and listen and nod a little bit, and you can just feel they're not there. You can feel that they are not really interacting, but you cannot elicit anything out of them, not even a behavior that can be called rude. They just go cold and neutral and go in themselves totally. So it's very important to look out for triggers that we grown-ups can fall in when we work with these kind of situations. One kind of tool to use here in crisis situation is to make a kind of description of three main stops. The first stop, is to make a description and to look into what happened in that situation and ask yourself maybe the following questions. What made the kid react? Whether he or she exploded or just went cold? And did you put a good understanding before you came with the consequences or your demands that you needed them to adhere to? Have you maybe for some time noticed the kid has been behaving different than before? Could there be something that already triggered them and maybe is bringing them all the way to the edge? And then you go to the second stop in that, and you see into the situation itself. How did things happen, and what was it that made the provocation possible, and what could there be of layers behind this, like at home, or you start asking questions about well, the kid's environment, the kid's daily life, what has happened, and you try to understand the related story, if there has been a story, or you try to find out what it has been, or get the parents to do it, or somebody who has the responsibility for the kid. You can also talk to the teachers and friends and others if you have time for that, or else try to let the parents dig out, well, where is the triggers and what has happened to bring that kid to that crisis situation, and how bad is it. The third thing is that you go on a journey with that kid to confront the situation that's really behind the crisis behavior. And so that way you show the kid that you really understand and that you want to help, and that you know that his or her behavior is not because they want to be rude, they're not seeking attention or trying to see the borders. They understand all that, but there's something that is pushing them to do so, maybe because they need help or because there is something else that's taking all their energy and power, and so they do not have more left to deal with when they are in school or at the camp or whatever. And so you have to like show that, okay, listen, it seems it has something to do with this and that, and maybe the kid will open up himself and she or he will tell you, well, my real problem, but they need to feel that you are compassionate And here it is where the relationship, what can you say, relationship can start evolving, and that can lead us to a solution. It doesn't help just to state the consequences and what's going to happen. You need you or put somebody on the case or ask the parents to evolve and what can you say, open up for a good relationship that goes deeper and becomes trustworthy for the kid, that he or she will open up and let you in or let the others in who can actually help or maybe shed light on the situation. A last thing you also have to be aware of here is that the low and high arousal cases, that's the frustration level that you can get to. You have to, in all three kind of behavior, both the effect and border seeking and the crisis, you have to look out for low arousal and high arousal triggers and reactions. And it can be anything. It can be a cognitive thing that can make it happen. And so you go from a crisis that can be contained to a crisis that just blows in your face or blows up as a big problem. It can be the way you look at that kid. It can be a threatening move. It can be an ignoring way. It can be many things that really shouldn't have happened. It can be a word or so you let fall because you are so frustrated and tired of that balloon blowing up in the class. And so that arises like it becomes a high arousal state that this kid is in. So maybe you should go about it saying, okay, we had a laugh, thank you very much for that, is it okay we go on? And by this way you are containing the situation, you're putting yourself in an understanding position, and you get something out of the laugh as well. You do not always react stiff and rejecting to what's going on around you, but you can show that you can also see the funny side of what's going on. And if it's border seeking behavior, you can maybe just state that no matter what you're gonna do, you're not gonna make me jump out the window, and the others will laugh at that, and you will gain some points because they will see, well, this is a wonderful teacher or social worker or pedagogue that is taking this into consideration, understanding what's going on, and so you will become a cool person. And so you keep the low arousal situation under control. You do not go there, put your hands on the table, threaten the kid with a high voice, and say that you're going to be thrown out of school, all the wrong things at once. And then that will bring you and him and the class or wherever you are in a high arousal situation that can have many risks of bad consequences. All right, this was just to get a bit about. There was one thing I forgot to mention when you have the border border seeking behavior. That is called the paradoxal intervention or the opposite intervention. And it means basically that if this kid has blown the balloon in the class, all right, and he did it just behind your ears, or maybe a side mate who came to scream out of it or got afraid. Well, what you do next time is you come with the same balloon and you wait until he's not paying attention, and you do it back or let somebody do it back. And so in that way, you just put yourself in a total opposite position than this kid is expecting. And you will take the whole drama and excitement out of the case. You say, well, this is a cool teacher. I cannot get to her or to him. This is a playful and understanding teacher who can be on the level of kids and teenagers, and you will win a lot in short time, especially if you do it properly. Of course, if you over exaggerate or just become a funny clown all the time and everybody's stepping on you, well, you're not upholding your authority. It should always be that kind of authority you're upholding at the same time as you're doing this. Otherwise, it will fail, of course, in the consequence of it. So that kind of opposite intervention, I have had very much success with it, and I know others also have used it for with good benefits. If it's used in special manners and under controlled circumstances, and without you losing your authority or putting you in a very really um bad situation where it could be misunderstood or where things can get out of hand. So keep it under control in a way, but okay, go and do the opposite thing. Someone wants to dance. I had once a class, we were working in biology, and they were just working in small groups, and I had some music in the background, and then one of them just wanted to dance, and instead of saying go back to your project, let's finish, we have only this lesson to do it, well, I said, that's beautiful, who want to dance with her? And then another one came, and another one came, and then we ended up the whole class dancing. And that's a beautiful scene, unforgettable. And we just used that time for that kind of small development. And fortunately, we were in a school that had the understanding of these things, because if you have been in a school where the principal and the others were so stiff and stiff-necked, that you would never get away with it, you will maybe be even punished. Well, that's a kind of pedagogy that's gonna make very stiff people. But if you can relate to that and go with the opposite intervention, you will get a lot also of scores and good points from your kids and teenagers, wherever you're working. I hope this was beneficial. It was helpful, as we say. And thanks for whoever has been listening. If you came here, otherwise, I'm happy doing this because it's good for my mind and soul. So have a good time.